listen, you know what? My husband said to me, when the children used to get hurt, I would be so identified with them. And believe me, boys are always getting hurt.
Mm.
I mean, hurt.
Yes. I wouldn't mind if you came home with a bloody nose or something.
No, that's wrong. So my husband said to me once, when he bleeds, you can't bleed for him.
No, I don't mind if he gets physical.
You're not being honest now. Do you... Listen, you want me to come on like Roy, or do you want me to be soft? Do you want me to be soft like Ann, or do you want me to come on strong?
Yeah.
You gotta be open if you want to hear the answer.
All right, no, go ahead.
All right,
yeah.
Okay. So you're very willful. I've seen that already.
Yeah. Probably.
You are.
I was wondering how you deal with that, because I suppose, you know...
Well, I learned when my children were very small that I cannot bleed for them. Yeah. And I heard my husband say to a lady that cleans for us, because she has a son that's very feminine, and he's 21, and she's having terrible problems with him, and Roy says to her, listen, you have to let him suffer. You cannot suffer for him. Don't you see that everything that he goes through in life is a lesson? And if you try to warn him to keep him from suffering, one day you may not be around and the guy may walk off a cliff or something. It's a good thing for people to suffer in a right way, in a suffering right way, because that makes us strong. I wouldn't be able to sit here if I hadn't suffered to a certain degree. It's only because I have a godly husband.
Yeah. Well,
Do
you're
you
lucky,
see?
aren't you?
But that doesn't matter. You see, that does not have anything to do with it. As I said before, that our happiness that we have comes from within us. We cannot get it from the outside. We cannot get it from any person. Happiness comes between us and the Creator. I'm telling you. And if you're not in line with that, you just don't get it.
So there's no way to short-circuit your children making mistakes?
How can you do that?
Well, you sort of advise them, don't you?
No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You can say to your son, I see what you're doing, because I said something to my son, one of my sons. I don't like to call names because then they're going to get angry with me.
Right.
Okay, but one of my sons had a little bit of a high blood pressure. And I said, you know, your problem is that you're so intense that if you could just calm down.
Well,
because
he's very intense. My son.
Well, of course, because you're willful. He's got your nature in him. Where do you think my son got his from? I know, you see. But at least I am trying to unlock that and unleash that by telling him this. And I was so calm when I said it to him, because we were going shopping. And he's like this. And I could just see myself 10 years ago, just trying to rush here and rush there and then go back and get this done and get that done and then sit there in the evening as if I've done nothing all day. See, that's all ego. Yeah. So I said to my son, you're so intense. If you could just calm down. Besides, he's a junker. He likes junk food. I said, number one, you have to work on your diet. But I said, more important than that, I said, you've got to be calm inside. He says, I know, Mom. You see, I could not say to my son, why don't you calm yourself down? You're just a nervous wreck. You're just this and that. See, he won't take that from a mother.
But, do your children meditate?
Pardon?
Do your children meditate?
Yes, they do.
And they were
not all of them.
No, but when they were
some
young,
of them.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know how long. They live with meditation.
Yes.
They hear it day and night. Living with Roy is a meditation, I assure you. You have to look at your willfulness with your son. You have to realize you cannot bleed for your son. You also should realize that, I read somewhere else, I don't know where I read this, that when we have troubles and we have problems, we should welcome that as an opportunity to learn something. And if you rob this from your son, what a cruel thing to do.
Yeah, well, I'm beginning to realize I am getting better, you know.
Oh, you're not getting better.
No.
I see your willfulness.
I realize it. You know, now I'm realizing it, and I'm just wondering if it's a universal
Can you
thing.
do
we
it?
all do it, or, you know, do we start to realize that we're doing it and then back off?
Well, I tell you that when you realize it, it will be such a pain in your heart
Yes, it is.
to see. Good.
I have thorn in my side.
Is it painful enough for you not to do it anymore?
Well, I'm trying, you know.
No, you can't be a little bit pregnant. That's what Roy says. No, when you're trying, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
You see, you have to
Well,
realize...
I'm realizing when I do it. Let's put it that way.
See, you can't take credit for your son. You can't take credit for his good deeds. You can't take credit for his errors. Like my son, my oldest son, when he got married, he was standing one day blaming me for something about himself. I said, how old do you have to be before you can take responsibility for your own sins?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cop-out, you see? But I have to be inside myself enough to know that I cannot be willful with my children, and especially my sons. Forget my daughter. She already passed me in that long ago.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. She's got more of my husband's nature in her.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. She loved him more than she did me, and that saved her. That's true. Girls are very close to their fathers.
Yeah.
Think about your willfulness with your son. Realize you cannot... What was that? Is that man in the front hall? I tell you, close the back door and the devil tries to come in the front. I'm telling you. Okay, do you understand? You're trying to take responsibility for your son, but you can't do that. You have to back away, and when you talk to your son, you have to talk to him in a soft way, because he's not a little child anymore. He's a man, and you have to realize that he's a man. All right?
Right. Okay, got it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to ask a question, or shall I just get on with the willfulness? Okay. Let me see. I thought of another example this afternoon when I was driving in the car about the willfulness of women. And men that have will in them, as well as the woman, they clash. That's why men and women are continually arguing, because it's whose will is going to be stronger than the other person's will, depending on how earthy the man is and how earthy the woman is. So my husband often says to two of my sons that are in business together, when they have an argument, they call him. And he says, you're like two dinosaurs pushing up against each other. So, you see, the thing is that the will is really our ego. And what we have to realize is that we have to realize deep inside ourselves that there's something greater than us out there, and we have to keep asking ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we not happy? Why are we making these mistakes? And it's so basic and so simple that it is our willfulness. Now, our willfulness is wanting our own way, see, because we're all very selfish people and we don't realize that we're selfish. You see, it's because we want our way, our willfulness. And that's what it comes from. And then we feel frustration, and then we feel resentment, and then all hell breaks loose. So right now I don't have a thought. I'm sorry. I had one and I keep losing them.
And can I add something? Because there was something that this woman said, that,
Yeah.
Or when you two were talking, you were
Right.
saying that her son was either going to be rebellious or effeminate.
Right.
But let me I'd like to add something to that, because I think I was the effeminate one and later rebellious. I don't think that it's not, it is partly effeminate, or it can be effeminate, but it's weakness. In other words, we tend to think of effeminate. I mean, most people tend to think as feminine, you know, feminine, overtly, outwardly feminine. But I mean, I think that the opposite side of the rebel is the conformist, the kind of weakling who you know says yes, mom, and is kind of ingratiating and charming. You know, that kind of weakness. When you see a little kid who, excuse me for running on, but I just to finish the thought.
I'll give you a minute.
This TV ad. I don't know if any of you have seen it, where the slogan, it's selling Jell-O pudding, and the slogan is talks about how smart the kid is. There's this young kid who's selling Jell-O pudding, and he's making a pitch to a girl and being very sophisticated. And I don't know if you've seen that, but the bottom line of the ad campaign is that he's very charming. He comes across all charm, all ooze, and inside it's covering up for a weakness, that kind, in a little kid, that kind of charm. And that's the way I was. I remember my mother was very willful and not, even hysterical sometimes. And I covered up for that. I covered up for my fear of her and fear of the world by being charming, by being clownish. You know, there are lots of ways a little 8-year-old can cover up for that. So it's not a matter. It's not a matter of feminine. I could see that.
He's getting
That
there.
remains to be seen. But it's something that if there is any degree that's all right compared to the way I used to be, it has to do with my dealing with forgiving my mother for being the way she was.
That's right.
So the issue is, because that's what releases me from the willfulness
That's
that
right.
Ann is talking about.
That is right. And I'm sure your son is probably somewhat of a manipulator, too, because of you being willful from him, with him. Well, of course, that's the way you are. Well, and you love that. But you love that.
I can't help it. Suddenly I
No,
realize
you
I
can help it.
have to
You
do it
you
again.
enjoy it. You enjoy that because you're involved with him.
Of course I am. He's my
Yes, but see, that's wrong. That's very wrong, because every time you do that with him, you're putting your nature in your son, and it's weakening him of his manliness. I'm telling you, my sons used to say, Mom, you're so dumb. And I'd say, what? And I would react to that, see? Because they had more of an example of Roy's strength in them than they did my manipulativeness.
Yeah.
So you really need to examine that.
Right.
You see how you thrived on that? You said, of course you do, because he's your son. I'm God. I'm God. Yes, I dig it. I love it. But see, you're robbing your son. You really are. You need to back off. You need to learn to be very quiet when you're around your son and not advise him so much. Look up to him with a little bit of respect and see what he's about.
Yes, I do. That's why I ask him.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Sorry. Right.
No, you don't. I can see you don't. Yes.
And in her situation, are you saying, it's a question, that her willful self has created a willful self in him?
Well, of course.
Therefore, later on, her willful self has to be fed after his willful self.
Well, of
so
course.
Self is feeding self.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. But we all do this. We all do this to each other all the time. We're these approval-seeking people.
Yes.
And once you get your willfulness out of the way, which is a very difficult thing to do, I know, because it's something that comes up inside us all the time, every day. And by the way, if we meditate, we're aware of this. If we do not meditate, we only understand it up here in our intellect. We do not understand it inwardly in our hearts. So that's true. That is true. So are you my yes man, Charlie? Because my husband, when my husband used to talk, I'd say, that's right. That's right. He says, okay, you're my yes man, Charlie.
No. I just recognize the truth that you speak.
Well, that's true.
That's
That's
why I
true.
said I saw you. I saw the video you from the outside.
Okay, enough compliments, please. I got more talking to do. All right. See,
And if you met your husband and married him within 2 weeks, and then he changed professions, I'm wondering if there was ever a time when you really realized that his judgment was proper, because that was a lot of,
I saw this in him before I married him.
you did see it within
Yes.
the 2 weeks that you knew him.
I saw this in him. When you meet Roy, see, I didn't want to talk about Roy.
Well, he had a different profession. Then when he became in, I mean, the profession he's in now is kind of an intangible. It must have been 25 or 27
35.
years.
35 years ago.
Well, he started this that long ago?
He started the hypnosis of life, which,
I see.
the hypnosis.
So it was right
The
after you were-
Institute of Hypnosis in Houston, Texas. He
Oh,
did
I
that for
see.
9 years.
So right away you knew that his judgment of changing professions and that your dependency upon
I never
him,
considered that. Let me tell you what I saw in Roy. I saw a man, a person that I had never seen before in my life that had such a gentleness and such a sincerity and such humility that I had never, ever experienced before in my life of any person. And that's what I saw in Roy when I was 20 years old.
so you didn't oppose him.
No, why should I oppose him?
Well, I've never met
How can you oppose this?
Well, I've only heard Roy on the radio say that there was an opposition in your relationship.
Well, there has to be. I'm not a robot.
So, well, I didn't know if you realized that you were opposing him or if he just thought you were.
Oh, no, he didn't think. He knew. No, Roy knew. You see, I'm also have been extremely willful, because you must understand that for 12 years when we were first married, we were like the average family where we I adored him. Did you notice how I changed that? And we had 4 children. He went to work, and I played house with the children. We took the children to the zoo and the park on weekends, And Roy started working with these people that had serious problems. And he came home one day and I did something, I don't remember. But I remember the first time he said to me, "You're a guileful woman." And I looked at him and I said, "What?" He says, "You're a very guileful woman." And that was the beginning of a change in me. Because you see, we never argued up to that point.
In other words, you don't oppose him when he says something like that. You just accept.
Oh, I hated him. Oppose him? I hated him. Of course I did. I resented him very much because I wanted to be adored.
Yes.
You see, as a young woman, before I met Roy, I was very attractive, and I had boyfriends that put me on pedestals and looked up to me and adored me, and I did not like that. Because women, oh, that's something good I can talk about. Women really do not like this. Women never really like this. They want to be liked for what's inside them. Yes. But men like what's outside them. And I did not like that. And when I met Roy, he was a different person cut from a different cloth. And down in Alabama, they don't have people like that. They don't have people like that hardly anywhere. But when we talked, I saw this man was very, very different. And I liked him very much. But I really didn't understand what kind of person that he really was. But I knew that it had an effect on me different from anyone. It was like I didn't have to fight people off. I didn't have to worry about whether the man was going to try to seduce me or try to touch me. And this is a relief to a woman. The women here know that. They want to be loved from within. They want a man to make them feel comfortable and not have to fight with them. See, I've been married a long time. I forgot what that's like, but I sort of know. See? So I was going to make another good point, and I sort of forgot, because you keep coming up with this opposition thing.
Well, because when we first started here, the first 4 or 5 questions, to me, were because they came listening to your...
women, what women... Well, but,
need to know about
yeah,
women.
but aren't we talking about that? Aren't we talking about the willfulness of women?
Okay, I'd like to know, I guess, what this willfulness...
What is your problem, dear?
I've got a serious problem with, evidently, this opposing the judgment of a person.
You're a very willful woman.
Oh, more than I would even want to be living with myself.
Are you approval seeking? Do you do things for approval? You must be very, you see, when you're willful, it's because you're very much an approval-seeking person. And I did not realize what an approval-seeking person that I was. And women are very much this way. I can tell you a lot of reasons why. Women are approval seekers just by the way they dress, just by the way they do their hair. They have to make such impressions, you see, and this is all because they're approval-seeking. You see what I'm saying? I gave a little talk up at Tall Timber Ranch last month when Roy did a mini-seminar, and there was a lady there that just kept talking to me about my hair. And she kept saying, do you do something with your hair? What, is that real? I said, will you leave my hair alone and let's just talk? And she kept saying to me, well, I just can't get over it. It's just so attractive. I said, stop dyeing your hair and let it go natural and you'll be happy with yourself. You see, this is all because we're so approval-seeking. And everybody, all women especially, are like this. You see, what we have to realize is that if we're not so approval-seeking and we're not so willful from the outside, we don't really know who we are because we are so outwardly motivated. Everything that most all of us do, and especially women, is for outward approval. But haven't you ever experienced a kindness that you've dealt with a situation or a person and there was nothing involved for any reward, and didn't that just set right real nice inside you? Have you experienced that? Well, that's the way we want to feel all the time.
I don't know if I experienced it with my husband.
No, because you hate him.
Well, hate, I don't know if...
Oh, come on, these are words. Come on now, be realistic. Don't be an outward person.
See, the thing is, it's that respect. I mean, you can not... It would be nice if I could say, yes, it's hate, because then you have something to deal with.
You're playing with words now. Listen, you admitted that you're a willful woman.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if you're a willful, if you're a willful woman, then you know that you resent your husband because obviously you haven't seen to the extent that your willfulness is. If you do, then you wouldn't have all this hate for your husband. You could see, because, you know, I used to see Roy, and I would, in my mind, I would think some silly little thing that he would say to me. He'd say to me, "Why are you making all that salad? There's enough salad there to feed an army." And I'm giving an exaggeration. And I think, now why, I look at him and I say, "Why are you asking me that?" And I could feel the judgment coming out just because he asked me a simple question. Now, okay, so you see, we do this so many times a day because this is our will operating. And I realized suddenly when I wanted so much to see my will, you can never get rid of it. You replace it. And you replace it in a woman, you become soft and you become gentle. And people can feel that when they're around you. But what I realized about